Hi, everyone. Welcome to July's messages. Wendy, if you don't know who I am, but I'm so happy to be here. This month's energy has been super intense. For those of you that are sensitive, can feel the just the intense energies that have been happening, not just even from a emotional standpoint or an energetic standpoint, but even from a very physical standpoint. There has been lots of solar flares. Even scientists don't understand what's going on with the sun, and the energy from the sun is comes into the earth and it affects our magnetic grid. So those of you that are sensitive can feel that. And it really is disruptive. I know I've talked to some of you. You talked about being dizzy. I feel like it's the solar flares that are happening, and there's a lot of planets that are in retrograde right now. So really feeling this almost push pull kind of energy, and I can see it physically in this painting, because the painting itself has a lot of those same themes. This polarity of ideas. So oscillating between one and the other. And that's part of the energy of July. And we're going to talk about it. So, whatever you're experiencing, really trusting that process, trusting yourself. Nothing bad is happening. You really are showing yourself the way to ascension and showing yourself the way to greater awareness and greater love. You're showing you how to love yourself more every day. And it's interesting because my guides are starting to get stronger and stronger. Like, obviously, I've always been able to communicate, but they're getting very specific on what I'm here to do, partly because it's time. But I am here to document in a chronological way this awakening that's happening on the planet. So in a way, my paintings are documenting this process. So it's an interesting, it's a cool way. I just enjoy it. I mean, I always wanted to, from a very young age, consciously saying I wanted to share new information. And I'm talking from a very young age. I don't even know what I was talking about, but I kept saying that and manifesting that. So here I am. So it's interesting because my relationship with my guides are starting to change, and I'm just partly sharing the process with you because you're going to notice changes over the next several months, because they're wanting me to channel more and more directly from them, and they told me specifically that they're going to come through and kind of make themselves aware of who they are and all of that stuff, but in due time, partly getting me ready, because it's a process, right? And I'm so grateful to have all of you on the journey with me. It really has been a beautiful growth process for me. But anyway, so here's the painting for the month, right? Beautiful painting. I love it. I love the feeling that it gives off. And like I said, we're going to kind of go over the themes of the month and the others in both sides of the theme. So I love that. But you can see that it's a night scene, right? So in essence, this month is about going within or having this nighttime energy. So that is a feminine energy. That is a going within energy, which can be felt as an isolation, but also for some isolation for some, but while others is a connected connection with self, finding that light within, and really feeling. Really, for some, really kind of tapping into the power of your intuition, really feeling an expansion in that space, while others at nighttime might be really getting lost in the dark. And we're going to talk about why that might be, but really knowing that, understanding that this too shall pass for those of you that have experienced or are experiencing this darker space and it's scaring you or you really want the light, knowing that this will pass and that this is just truly part of the process. And you can see the swan here kind of represents a lot more of that. The swans represent purity and divinity and prosperity and joy. That's what swans represent. Beautiful, almost angelic bird to me. Very white, very beautiful, large birds. And they are meant to be partnered, meaning they mate for life, right? So they are meant to be partnered. And so in this way, we are too, and meaning we need our community, and that is part of our awareness. And so becoming aware that we do need our community, but also this part of this process is about being alone. Like this part of the work, what we're going to talk about in this painting and what's going on this month, is something you have to do alone. No one can do it for you, and you can't do it with somebody, because it's not about their experience, it's about yours. It's about knowing yourself and looking at yourself within. This nighttime energy is feminine, meaning it's the inner work. So this month has a lot of this inner work going on. And though some might be experiencing opposite of that, because they might be in a very joyful state and very connected, it is also just about taking responsibility for what's happening as a reflective or outside of yourself, that it is a reflection inside yourself. Because what is the swan doing, right? What is the swan doing? The swan is looking in this pond. Now, the pond is representative of your emotions, of yourself, of your inner self, right? Water is a magical thing. We don't even really understand what water is. And we're made up of it like 80, 90%, 80-something percent. And it is, representative again of divinity, but also of our emotional self. And you can see that this pond and this lake is very calm, right? It's very calm. Not even really any movement, really. And that is the practice of really staying present. And so that's really what Spirit's message is really staying present. Stay present. And whatever's coming to the surface is what you need to do and feel and be, and trusting this process. But know that you are this divine, beautiful being of light, right? And as we look in, right, part of this process of like getting to know thyself, right? Moving in our waters, really becoming aware of how we feel, how we think, how we are. This does feed into this forest above. And this forest represents our wisdom, our path, our Akashic path. So if you don't know what Akashic means, it's all of our lives together, all of the wisdom that we've been taking and learning and pulling from. Like you have a huge, almost library of information within you, within your cells. And so really understanding the bigger picture of your life and how the things that you're learning right now typically are not just one life. They're like lives. So really appreciating, the growth that you have been taken over millennium, right? Over thousands and thousands of years. And the mastery that takes of holding the energy that you are and moving through the things that you are and just really appreciating your own inner wisdom and celebrating that, right? The swan represents joy and prosperity. It's like really celebrating that. What do you enjoy about yourself? So really celebrating yourself, being grateful for the things that you're great at, and even being and loving the things that you're still learning. Really learning how to love the process. Because overall, this painting is, the swan is the biggest thing, but it's the swan's representation of its divinity, right? It's beautiful light. But as that's one of the themes of the month, the other side of the theme of the month is looking at our reflection, is really looking at that darkness coming up from the waters, right? The swan is looking down. And so what that means is that we're being asked to look at the subconscious. We're being asked to look at the things that we might not be aware of, because the subconscious generally, by definition, means things we can't see that are not in our conscious. Because if we were conscious of it, it wouldn't be part of our subconscious. And our subconscious is a funny thing it is truly a, it is truly a, it's like the wind. It's affecting things, right? But you can't see it. You can feel it sometimes, but you can't see it. So you're trying to understand what something is, like how it's affecting it. So your subconscious shows up in our lives whenever whenever we're trying to manifest something, we're trying to create something in our lives, but it's not happening. There's a subconscious belief or pattern within you that is interfering with that. Interfering is a strong word because it's really just parts of you that don't align with that frequency. So, for example, if you really want to be heard, right, and you want to create, you're manifesting supportive, loving relationships, and you really want to be heard, and then you keep having these experiences outside of yourself where people are not listening to you, and you're getting really frustrated. You're like, but I'm manifesting listening and hearing. So it's about looking deep within and taking responsibility that there must be a part of you, especially if you're being triggered. If you're not being triggered and you can see it's their own stuff because they can't listen to themselves, that's a whole nother thing. But if you look within and you say, hey, is there a part of me that I'm not listening to? Right? And if you can honestly say that there isn't, right? It's like, then you're fine. But it's about really going within and looking at those parts of yourself where that might be true. Where are you not listening to yourself? Because the thing is, once you start listening to yourself and hearing yourself, you no longer need anybody else to do it. So it's a funny paradigm shift. Because in our youth or in our immaturity, we might say, I want other people to hear me, right? Because we don't know yet. And so then we learn and we practice this. We take responsibility. Where am I not listening to myself? And then through that process, you understand the wisdom of, oh, I never needed anybody else to do that, right? I only ever needed myself, because now I don't even care if they hear me, because I'm hearing myself. And they're not hearing me has everything to do with them. But you're no longer triggered, and you're no longer participating in a story where you're the victim and no one's listening to you. So it's all about just taking responsibility that your outside world is a reflection of your internal world. Your perception of reality is based on your internal world. So we have to look at our waters, our rivers, our pond, whatever we're swimming in. We have to look at and know ourselves. And that takes becoming truly aware. And I know these are reoccurring themes, but this is coming up right now. So I would say for you, what is coming up for you right now? And maybe it's the other side. Maybe it's more about the appreciation of self. And maybe it's more about the joy and the celebration and really owning your divinity. Or maybe you are looking at some of your reflections in the water and you're getting lost in that. So there is also this part of the energy of this month where you might be getting lost in this reflection. Because notice, whenever you're looking at yourself in this way, even when we're looking at ourselves, it's going to be distorted. In understanding the distortion, right? There's a lot of symbolism here. When you're looking at yourself in the water, it's going to be distorted. And in some ways, you could get lost in that, meaning man, am I not perfect? Why am I so weird? And why do I look so weird? And it's almost like separating from that and just being and no longer participating in that. So it's going to be this, both are true. And that's why this energy in this month is so intense. It's like navigating this back and forth. You do need to look at and take responsibility for your subconscious patterning, but at the same time, don't get lost in it, and none of it is real. None of it is real. So, because part of this painting here is nothing is as it seems. Things are not what they seem. Things are not as they seem. So in that, there's the surrendering, but also this almost like Alice in Wonderland, you're going down the rabbit hole where things aren't what they seem. So disengaging from some of that. So if you are getting lost in that process of being in your subconscious or being in those darker spaces, alleviate some of that tension by floating, by going for a walk, by just even small things. Changing the pattern, right? Because maybe part of your patterning is always finding a problem with yourself, with others. So not getting caught up in that becoming and really allowing yourself to be this angelic being, be your divinity in form, whatever that might be. So it's this beautiful kind of dance with reality. So another part of this energy is this new beginning. And there's a new beginning, and it's reiterated here in the painting based on the polar bear. Polar bears represents new beginning and abundance and beautiful things. Again, prosperity, which is, again, a reiteration from the swan. Like, nothing bad is happening. Everything really is unfolding perfectly. And the bear right now is very small. So all of the things that you've been manifesting and creating and moving through, like, you're doing a great job, and everything is happening exactly what you want is happening. And you might be experiencing small evidences of that. Like, okay, yeah, I feel that. Oh, yeah, I can see it. And knowing that there's this, with new beginnings, there's an excitement with it, right? There's an excitement with it, just like with the swan. There's like joy with it, and there's excitement with it. So you might be feeling that, and that's fantastic. But also in this new beginning, in this abundant space, right? Whenever there's a new beginning, there's also an ending. So there's both the ending and the beginning this month. So you're feeling the ending, and you might be feeling the beginning, and you might have days where you experience both, right? And so really allowing for that process and giving yourself a lot of grace. Like, this painting embodies grace and peacefulness and just compassion. So, because you might be experiencing grief. So, especially if you're in the past, in that dark part of the swan, in that reflection, you might be experiencing grief, partly because this month is about releasing. It's about new beginnings, but it's also about endings. So about releasing those things that no longer serve you, right? So really allowing yourself to release emotionally, allowing yourself to grieve, right? How whatever it is that you need, swimming in that water and really staying present with whatever that space may be. So it's a new beginning, but it's also an ending, and then there's grief there. Just like we talked about with in this new energy, in this new beginning, this energy is really, really new. So parts of our psyche can be very excited, but parts of them can be very scared because we've never felt this before. Like, we've never been here before. Like, I mean, even as a collective on the planet, like, the planet hasn't seen this kind of light on it ever. Like, that's partly why this spiritual awakening is so excited, and that's why so many people are talking about it. So, because we've never been here before. So there is no part of our Akash, on this planet anyways, that knows what it's like to be ascended here. Now, on this planet. So integrating these energies is so new. So it's very uncomfortable. It can be. And this discomfort can be scary, so being very mindful. That's why we need to look at our subconscious, because if there's fear in there of whenever we experience something new, it was a trauma, right? Or something bad's going to happen, because it always has. We have to look at those parts, because those parts cannot come with us. Those parts cannot be driving our bus as we expand and as we awaken. This is where my guides, and it's very interesting because my guides finally told me that I know, right? Partly it's just time, but told me that I'm here to help document this awakening process through my paintings. So it's a documentation of this spiritual expansion. And I love that. It makes complete sense to me, and it helps me kind of organize and just kind of have clarity around what I'm doing. And that's part of this month's energy, right? You also might be having this epiphany, right? Epiphanies are part of this energy of this month, of just like this awesome intuition and awesome clarity around certain things, all the while still maybe experiencing moving into those subconscious beliefs and kind of sifting through and releasing all of this stuff, or grieving all of this stuff while having these epiphanies. So it's this back and forth kind of weaving. So it's a very intense energy. That's why this month's kind of crazy. But part of this new beginning, this new energy, is stepping into, part of this planetary awakening is about stepping into universal consciousness. We've never had that before. That's part of why the water's changing. That's part of why our DNA is shifting, to allow for an awareness of universal consciousness. So if you are in that grieving process and really in that darker space, in this month you can see it's not the primary space, right? This reflection piece is very small. If you are, our hearts, our beings cannot stay in the dark too long we need some light. So my spirit guides are saying you can always ask for help. You can always literally say, I need a reprieve. I need a time out. I need some light. So go for a walk. This is cultivating new practices, new patterns. You're not meant to stay in that dark space. You're meant to do what brings you joy. While you have to navigate, you do have to do this work, right? We started that saying, this is the work, you can't avoid it. This is the work that you have to do by yourself. And you're being asked to do it. And this reflectiveness with this universal consciousness is really understanding what truly awakening is understanding that everything is you. Everything is from this internal world, your whole world is from your internal belief system. And so in that way, you don't have to do anything. You literally could cultivate abundance and success, whatever it is that you're doing, within first. Because ultimately, if you don't do this work, let's say you want to, let's say you want to fly planes, right? Or you want to fly planes. And so you're like, hey, I really want to fly planes, but I'm afraid of flying. So you have to face those fears. You have to look at all those things. Because even if, let's say, I don't do any of the internal work and I'm like, I'm going to go learn how to fly a plane. I'm going to go take the class and I'm going to, learn how to do it. Because that's an important thing. You do have to create a practice and new patterns, which include the physical stuff. You have to do that. But even if I was to make myself learn the class, if I don't internally look at the fears associated with flying, I'm never going to get there. I have to face those things, right? I have to allow myself to succeed. And maybe that's because it's new and I've only known failure. So succeeding is actually just different and it's hard for me, let's say. So really swimming these waters and looking at these subtle belief systems. These are subtle, that might be there within you. This is essential in this universal consciousness of taking responsibility of all parts and really practicing looking within and really feeling the subtleties of feeling, the subtleties of belief systems, the subtle things. Because here you have the polar bear, which is new beginnings, on two polar ice caps. And you see this swirling of energy kind of coming down into the water, into the reflection, the dark reflection of the swan. That's where the magic happens. This is where the magic happens. This is essential to us moving forward, this process. You mastering yourself. It's not, I can't, it's about a collective consciousness. I'm doing my job. You have to do your part, which is you have to do this alone. You have to look at these things. You have to face your fears. You got to face your dragon. You got to face your monsters. You got to face the devil. And you have to say, no. Oh no, you're not safe. 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 Bad things are happening. Bad things are happening. Whatever your demons are saying, you have to look it in the eye, feel that, honor that, be like, no, I am safe. It's not easy. Because meanwhile, there may be parts of yourself that really do feel not safe or very afraid. And while you're feeling that and fearing that, you have to say, you shall not pass. I am no longer choosing this. And you may have to say that a million times. It depends on what you're releasing and your Akash. You could be releasing thousands of lives that where you've experienced that kind of fear. But that's where when you literally are feeling that fear of death, let's say, and you say, it's not true. It's all a lie. That's when everything changes. And that's a very magical, sacred space that you and you alone take with God, with your own divinity, with yourself, with your own light. This is where the magic happens. Right? So feeling this energy from the swan, from this painting, really, right? You have these two icebergs, again representing this polarity and this partnership, but this polarity of two different things. And the polar bear and the icebergs are really representative of this new energy that's on the planet. New. But there's a lot of new energy here for us now in this month and continuing. There's a lot of heart-based energy here now. We talked about the solar flares, but a lot of heart-centered, because that's where this paradigm really shifts, is about moving from here to here in the present moment of really honoring how we feel. This is the doorway. This is the doorway to our new selves. And the brain is going to have a problem with it because it's like, hey, I was in charge and now your heart's in charge. So it's really navigating these waters where there's a softness to it, right? There's this compassion, being gentle. It's not about this wins or this wins. It's about this has a place and this has a place. And at first, as we transition, it might feel like we're going like this because, oh my God, I'm really honoring my emotions and there's no logic. When in fact, that's not true. It's our perception. Because truly just honoring our emotions, it's actually just balanced. But because we've been so out of balance, it feels like this. Right? It's like saying somebody that has a hard time speaking up. Right? And so when it comes to a balanced, let's say, throat chakra, and this painting has everything to do with your throat chakra, that's why it's all blue, okay? Throat chakra, we'll talk about that in a second, or as I'm done telling the story. For those of you that might have a hard time speaking up, so it's really imbalanced. So you never speak up and you let everyone else speak, right? So it's like this, or whatever, right? You can't really see all of me, but whatever, you get what I'm saying. So you're way over here. So this is what you've known as balance. This is what you've known as exchange of speaking. This is speaking to you. And this has a certain frequency, okay? As you begin to speak up and you speak up one time, it's going to feel like you're super loud and you're super whatever. And that's just the lie of it. That's not true. You speaking up one time actually just shifts it like this, and it's going to feel so out of balance for you because you've known it like this, which has a certain frequency. So you're going to shift it like this, and you're like, holy moly, oh my goodness, I'm being so loud and so aggressive. When in fact you're not. It's not even balanced yet, right? Because this has a completely different frequency. And this is like you're speaking up continuously, and you're just allowing for, right? It's like this. This is different. And that's part of what this energy is about. Right? Is this is this balance of this throat chakra. So really allowing yourself to be, and just understanding that this, as we get balanced, feels really off. And that's where the brain doesn't know, because the brain's just used to this. And it's like, this is what we know. But really we're shifting. So the perception is off, right? So nothing is as it seems. So really just trusting that, you're supposed to speak up. And this painting is about this. This is authentic voice. So authenticity is just allowing yourself to have your experience, whatever it might be. So really, like, obviously swimming in your waters and just being aware of, and then allowing for. But it's also being seen. So allowing yourself to be seen, whether it's you allowing yourself to be seen from yourself, like seeing yourself, also allowing other people to begin to see you and feeling the safety of that, right? The universe is here to support you. So in this ice caps, there's a lot of new energy. And this new energy from the north is important to our ascension process. They say that as the icebergs are melting, new energies are being released, just like the solar flares, like new energies coming into the planet, new energies coming from out within the planet, just like new energies coming out from within us. So as these icebergs are melting, this new energy holds within it new information, new solutions, new identities, new things that we don't even have an awareness of yet. And you have an opportunity to take your own place within it, meaning you can bring in new information. You can be part of this. You are. I mean, especially if you're listening to this video. So being open to this energy that's coming in from the north. This blue energy also is part of the Palladian energy from the Pleiades. And these can be, some of them are multidimensional beings. Well, they're all multidimensional, but dimensional beings, meaning they do not take form, like typically like ninth dimensional beings. And they're just very, very high frequency, where this density that we experience as form here on this planet, they don't have that experience, but they're here to help us. They know how to move through this process of the swan and the shadow self, and integrating more of who we are into our heart space, this Christ consciousness. They've done that. So part of this energy of this painting is about holding some of that frequency from the Palladians, and just the wisdom that they have in regards to it, and knowing the way and trusting this process. Nothing bad is happening. But even the melting of the icebergs, really trusting that nothing bad is happening. And just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that we apply a negative meaning to it. Do we need to take responsibility for our destruction of Mother Earth? Yes. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. We do need to do that. But in the bigger scheme, and the bigger scheme of things, this melting of the icebergs, they say, has nothing to do with what we think it does. The Earth is changing because we're changing. So as we're changing so dramatically, so is the Earth. Right? It's finding balance. It's creating balance. It knows how to heal in a way that we cannot even fathom. But so can our bodies. So in this energy, in this new energy from the north, when it's melting, expect miracles for your bodies, for your minds, for your aging. Right? Really staying open to the possibility that nothing is as it seems. And part of the reason why we age is because we think we do. Right? Part of the reason why we get sick is because we think that's a normal part of being human. That our bodies have to show us our ailments. But we can shift that relationship. It doesn't have to. We can take responsibility right now of the things that we're not willing to look at, right? And we're going to look at them with bravery. So our bodies no longer have to hold the density. Well, we're going to be brave enough to feel the pain, brave enough to feel the anxiety and the depression and the denial of self, the separation of self. We're going to look at that. with love in our hearts. That's part of this Pleiadian energy. And in that, miracles can happen. Truly. Suspend belief. There is this suspension and this trust. This part of this month's energy is this distrust, looking at where you might not trust, and then also trust. Learning how to trust the world, the universe, life itself. Will it provide you what it is that you need? And repairing some of those belief systems around it, right? The last thing I want to kind of go over is this new moon solar eclipse. It feels like it's prophetic in nature, meaning it's telling me of a time that is to come, of when we have a major solar eclipse. You can't see in this picture, but there are like solar flares coming off of it, and I did that before I knew about the solar flares, so I thought that was cool. I thought about solar energy coming off of the ring when I was painting it, not realizing that it was all about these solar flares. So, I mean, I know that it's so poignant and spot on, but you guys don't necessarily, because you could be like, oh, she saw the solar flares, and then I've actually painted this. This has been done for a while. Just got to the video, but very cool, but also the kind of be another turning point of the energy. This month was very significant in that, and then it's going to happen again when this solar eclipse happens. But it's also this new moon energy. So just similar to what eclipse energy feels like, it's happening this month, even though a solar eclipse isn't happening, and this new moon energy kind of as well. So even though new moon energy is like a lot of new energy, right? It's also when we least have light, right? Reflection of the light from the moon. So just that no thing, that the womb space of darkness, right? And being comfortable in that space. So I hope you enjoyed this video. There's a lot going on. Much love to you. Don't forget about your divinity and creating practices that help you continue to experience that joy and to continue to experience that light within, even if it's small, right? Going for walks and doing things, about really just staying present with yourself and honoring your heart today, and really becoming comfortable in that space of how you feel, and having the courage to look within at your own reflection and take responsibility. These are simple things, but not always easily done, and you're so loved and so honored for doing this. So thank you for sharing this journey with me. I am very excited to grow with you. Partly my guides are saying that I'm going to begin to channel even more and more. I'm going to channel them because partly it's time. They haven't been able to come through as strongly because of the energy on the planet, but they're going to be able to come through very strongly here in the next couple months. So I'm going to be able to channel them stronger and stronger as we go, as I get more comfortable. Partly it's just getting me comfortable with that because I've been channeling them for a very long time with my paintings. So to introduce you directly, it's going to be very fun and exciting. So let me know your thoughts. Sending you love. I can't wait to connect with you next month. And until then, namaste.